With great pleasure that I welcome you to this enlightening panel discussion. And it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker who is joining me for this first panel discussion at today's conference, Dr. Cochav Elkayam Levy. I would tell a little bit about Cochav, my friend. Established and chair the Dvora Institute for Gender and Sustainability Studies. She is also the chair of the Civil Commission on October 7th Crimes by Hamas against Women and Children. She is the principal author of the National Report on Gender Mainstreaming in Times of Emergencies, which was adopted by the Israeli government in June 2022. She was selected as one of the most promising young leaders under 40 in Israel by the Marker magazine. Dr. Elkayam Levy is a Sophie Davis Fellow on Gender Conflict Resolution and Peace at the Leonard Davis Institute for International Relations at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And she teaches human rights law, international law, climate justice, and feminist theorist at Hebrew University and at the Reichman University. These are only few things that she is doing, and the list is much longer. Distinguished guests, with great pleasure, I would like to, before we delve into the heart of our discourse, allow me to provide a brief overview of the central issue at hand. There is a very long history of using crimes against women as a weapon of war. From time immemorial, women's bodies have been seen as symbols of the nation, so the violation of bodies of women equals the violation of national body. Such violation is intended to cause the ultimate national humiliation and disgrace through violating the individual woman. Using women as a weapon of war is now clearly recognized as a war crime, certainly a crime against humanity. One of the earliest and most haunting images of Hamas October 7 attack on Israel was of a young Israeli woman, bruised and bloody, dragged by her captors from a jeep and paraded to cheers and frenzied calls of God is great, Allahu Akbar, as blood flows between her legs. Before the world understood the scope or extent of the horrors that unfolded the terrible day, we knew her face, filmed and shared with the world by her kidnappers themselves. Her name is Naama Levy, and she is 19 years old. 123 days after her abduction, Naama remains in captivity in Gaza, along with the other Israeli hostages captured by Hamas on October 7. The targeted attack of women and children, including mass torture and rape, was a major goal of that attack. This was a central element in their war against Israel and against Jews. To harm by gender crimes is viewed by terrorist organizations as the most effective form of spreading terror within the enemy. For Israeli women, the shock of these attacks had been doubled by the world's nonplussed reaction, especially from the human rights community and women's rights organizations. Perhaps the clearest example of this is the response from the UN Women, arguably the most senior international organization responsible for protection of women. UN Women released a statement on October 13, almost a week after Hamas massacre and abduction of the hostages, saying, and I quote, UN Women condemns the attacks of civilians in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories and is deeply alarmed by the devastating impact on civilians, including women and girls. In response to UN Women's October 13 statement, our distinguished speaker, Dr. Cochav Elkayam Levy, drafted a letter in partnership with the other organizations, accusing UN women of ignoring the horrific situation of more than 222 innocent hostages, women, men, and children from the age of 9 months to 85 years old. And the brutal attack and atrocities led by Hamas against Israeli citizens, including the murdering, raping, and slaughtering of hundreds of women, mothers with their babies, children, elder women, and people with disabilities. UN Women is an international organization that must stand with women of all ethnicities, citizenships, backgrounds. It is unbelievable that UN agency that is responsible for women's rights is ignoring the gender crimes which have been done by Hamas on that Black Saturday. The letter draw attention to the video documentation by Hamas of their crimes, including raped women whose bodies are covered in blood. The films taken by the terrorists who attacked the villages near the border show terrorists ripping the clothes off the women hostages, spitting on them, and sexually abusing them. The full scope of the sexual abuse of the hostages is not yet fully known and should be fully investigated according to international law. At this point, I would like to address you, Cochav. We would appreciate hearing your perspective on the response of the UN women organizations to the appalling crimes committed by Hamas against Israeli women. How you feel about their reaction? Tell us your story.
Thank you so much, Tzipi. And I want to thank the organizers, and specifically Pnina, who has been by my side for the last few years, and especially now after October 7th. So if it's okay, Tzipi, I'd like to start by first sharing a bit about myself. I feel like I need to anchor myself before the 7th of October and who I was before everything happened. So just very briefly, because you already mentioned a lot of the things, I'll just say briefly. So I teach international law, I teach human rights law, feminist theories, and climate justice. I want to say that I chose to myself this subject. I really believe in the international system. I'm almost asking myself if I should say it in the present tense, if I believe or believed. It's really difficult for me. It's a system that was created from the ashes of World War II, from the ashes of the Holocaust. And you can imagine me teaching those subjects in university very passionately, especially about women's rights organizations at the UN. And before the 7th of October, I also want to mention that we were fighting here for gender equality. We were really, there was a huge, there is still a huge protest movement to secure women's rights here in Israel, to secure the fact that women should be in leadership positions. And I think one of the main recommendations of the report that we drafted was that, first of all, women are not represented in the most important forums. They're not fully represented in the most important forums, and this must change. So just feel that I need to share that in advance. So after the 7th of October, I was also given this new task that I've never imagined. And I'm now the chair of the Civil Inquiry Commission on Hamas's crimes against women and children. I'll say, maybe I'll share a little bit where it all began. So on the 7th of October, I was actually with my father. He was hospitalized at Sheba Hospital. And once we started getting the reports, all of us, about what's going on, the fact that people, children have been calling their relatives saying that they were, they are hiding and their parents were murdered, parents sharing that they've seen their children murdered, people were burned in their own houses, asking for help, people taken as hostages into the Gaza Strip. It was terrible few days, and I think I want to emphasize the existential threat we all felt and still feel in many ways. And as international law experts, we knew that we are seeing crimes against humanity before our eyes. And I have to say, honestly, I didn't think there is going to be an issue with the international community. I thought we are seeing like the most terrible, horrific crimes documented by Hamas itself. They came in ready with cameras, taking images, taking videos of those, really to terrorize us for generations, to terrorize us not only now, but for generations to come. And so I thought the international community will respond very quickly. And when I'm talking about response, I want to emphasize three things. First of all, the fact that they should really initially report that there's an atrocity, there's horrific crimes that have happened here, very clearly stating what happened. Secondly, condemning the crimes, expressing solidarity with the country, expressing solidarity with the victims. And thirdly, I'm asking my students usually, thirdly, they really need to offer help. This is what they do. They need to offer us help. We're still, I think, waiting for this help. And so once the days went by, already in the first few days, we saw that they are not responding, or if they are making statements, the statements really feel inadequate and not representing the kind of horrors we've seen and we're still experiencing in the first few days. And so, very naively, I think, I thought that once we, as international experts, will, I'm looking at Nina because we did it together, and the second week we thought, maybe they don't understand. Maybe we can just give them the most credible information that we had as experts, as international law experts, as human rights experts, civil society organizations. We got together, and on the second week of the war, we gave them the most credible information that we had. I thought, again, naively, that once they'll get the information from us, they'll probably understand. Of course, I can say now that they knew much more than us. They knew much more than us because the information circulating in Israel was very minimal. Outside of Israel, the information was circulating much more quickly because victims, families were still here, and we didn't. The Israeli media did not want to expose too much information. Anyway, we sent those. I drafted a report together with my colleagues, and we sent this report really to every UN agency. And I'm looking also at Tamar here, that drafted this with us. Really to every UN agency you can imagine, both formally and informally. It's not only UN Women, but CEDAW, the CEDAW committee. It's the Experts Committee on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, the Special Rapporteurs on Violence Against Women, on Children's Rights, the Committee on Rights of Children. We sent it to everyone. And it was an email, not just like we truly asked for help. And I sent it from my Hebrew University account, and we were waiting, really waiting for them to respond, perhaps to say, even send a thank you note or offer help and say, are you okay? How can we help you? And unfortunately, I can say that we didn't get any response. We were shocked. We were like exchanging messages between us. What's going on? Why aren't they responding? Did you check your email? Did you check your email? Did they answer you? It was really crazy to understand, it was unbelievable, I said, deeply surprising that they were not responding to us. And so, as days went by, I was invited to speak. I think it's important. I was invited to speak before the CEDAW committee. 5 members of the CEDAW committee. I was invited to represent the women's protest movement here in Israel by Banot Alternativa and Forum Dvorah. And we, a day before my speech, better that they would not do it, but a day before my speech, CEDAW released a statement. Now, each member of the CEDAW committee, we knew that they saw our report. We made sure they receive our report. They made a statement not mentioning the 7th of October and not mentioning the hostage taking, the women that we've seen dragged into the Gaza Strip, and it was already a few weeks after the attack. And I can tell you that I was really devastated. I didn't think I will be able to speak that day. I didn't think I will be able to deliver the speech. I felt like the entire I felt the responsibility of all women here in Israel to represent them. And again, I felt like, wow, this really really fails us so deeply, the inability to speak up against these atrocities, even very generally, especially what we've seen happening to women and the kind of information we already shared with them. So you mentioned Levy, but I mentioned Shani Luke, and I mentioned Tamar Kedem Simantov, who was burnt alive with her children, with her mother-in-law, and with her husband in a house. I mentioned other amazing women, and everything we knew at the time. And so I went and I told them in this speech that we are really, by their silence, we are seeing the same denial mechanism that are usually inflicted on women on the individual level. Like usually we are not believed, but it's now shocking to see the same disbelief by the bodies that are supposed to represent us. Really, it's the same denial mechanism now being inflicted on us collectively. I also told them that this is really undermining the legitimacy of the international legal system. It delegitimizes everything that we've worked for decades as a women's movement, every achievement that we've made. They must believe us here on the ground. And I told them that also, I'm not going to mention even one resolution because we all know it very well, but if they are not able to follow this, they are really failing humanity. There's a reason these crimes are defined as crimes against humanity. It's not only that they are betraying us, they are betraying humanity. And by their silence, I want to add that they are dehumanizing us. I want to add also demonizing us, because it wasn't just silence. It was added by constant reports about what's going on here in Israel is in ways that really demonized us as Israelis. So, so that was really difficult. And we continued corresponding with them, asking them to respond. It took weeks for them to release the very weak statement. I think we'll see whether they...
the one in December.
Yes. That I want to mention that they mentioned only the sexual-based crimes, but we've seen our commission is documenting all crimes committed against women and children, and also sexual abuse committed against men.
Yeah.
So
But I think that you mentioned the denial effect. So recently I've heard from Pnina and also from you, that now you have a collaboration on a large-scale initiative aimed to gathering and documenting evidence of gender-based crimes committed by Hamas. Could you share with us the difficulties you experience in this process and elaborate on the purpose and the significance of this effort from your perspective?
Of course. Thank you so much for asking this. So actually, once I realized, and we all realized that they are not responding, we did this weekly meeting, and I told everyone, listen, I think we should really stop trying to get them to believe. We should stop really our greatest mission. We have a historical mission to document everything. They will not help us in this. We have to document ourselves. We already, even just during my speech at CEDAW, I started getting that day so much information. All of us started getting reports, and people told me, Cochav, did you hear about the women in Kfar, in Be'eri? And I got so many reports, so I felt like we have to stop and establish a an independent inquiry commission that we are going to lead, to give a voice to those women, to give a voice to the kinds of crimes that we've seen here. And I can tell you, it's really the most difficult thing I did in my life, and I've done a few things. It's really, I can't explain even how difficult it is. First of all, one difficulty is doing this in this atmosphere of denial. The fact that we feel like the burden of proof on our shoulders is unprecedented. It's really unprecedented. Nothing I've seen, and I'm communicating with my colleagues around the world, human rights experts that have documented war crimes, and they're like, wow, Cochav, this is nothing that we've seen. When we talk about those crimes, people are asking for proof in ways that Do you have a video of the rapes? How do you know that it happened? And since the beginning, people are asking me, Cochav, how do you make sure the videos are not AI manipulated or the images are not AI manipulated? So I can tell you we are fundraising and we've partnered with the best tech companies. Thank God that we're seeing that we have those companies that can help us to make sure the videos are AI safe, that can help us put all this information in a secured systems. But the burden of proof is huge. I also want to mention that people want to get proof, but as feminist scholars, we all know, or as women, we all know that it takes time to reveal sexual-based trauma. It may take years, it may take decades even. Even if we're talking about the Holocaust, only in the last decade was sexual abuse really revealed by the efforts of researchers. It took a long time. And I also I want to say that this is a civil effort. At the very beginning, may I share a story? Yes. So at the very beginning, we met with Professor Catherine McKinnon. She's one of the best scholars in the field. And we were very anxious before meeting with her. It was she asked for a very small meeting, and I told everyone to prepare the data because I told them this is the best scholar. We have to be very prepared with proof, with everything that we have. And she went on Zoom, and she didn't care about any proof. She was like, "Are you okay? I know you've been through hell. How can I help you?" And we all started crying, of course. We're all grown women, and we expected to be very prepared, and we all started crying. I personally shared the existential threat, the plan that I have in my head for my children. Where am I going to hide them? And I also shared with her after we talked, of course, it started a whole new conversation. She really cared about us. It really made me believe. Not believe, it really made me understand that no one asked us, no one allowed us to heal, to ask even ourselves, how are we doing? And so I shared with her that I'm not sure I can do this, because first of all, the government is going to have much more information in just 1 month, and we're not funded. And she said, you know what, you're going to do this, you have to stay non-governmental. Some of the victims will come to you and not to the police. And also, even if you'll have 1% of what the government has, this is the most precious information because it's going to represent women the best way. And anyway, it was really, I think she demonstrated belief, and she made us believe that we can do this.
That's right. So there are a few developments, I think, regarding UN Women's response, and I know that UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Ms. Pramila Patten, is in Israel now. I think you're going to meet her. So tell us about what you think, how those recent developments may affect and change the world's attitude towards Hamas gender-based crimes in Israel, and what consequences you expect in the future in view of these developments. Could you share your insights, your feelings?
Yes, of course. So Pramila's staff is here. We're going to meet her staff tomorrow. And I think it's very important. I think the statements that have been made are important statements. It was a relief to see those statements, at least some acknowledgement. It's not enough. It's truly not enough. We, as legal scholars, we know that these processes take years. The investigation just begun, and we need to see them being able to really investigate it properly. I'm worried that some of the investigation was vested in the COI, the Commission of Inquiry of the Human Rights Council. I'm worried because this is the most biased investigation team in the UN, and I want to say that I think the most important thing is that we'll see an independent inquiry commission which is unbiased and has the special expertise in investigating war crimes against women. So I think this is important. This is what I'm hoping to see in the future, which has not happened yet. So Pramila's mandate is just about the sexual abuse crimes. And I'm hoping that she'll be able to reveal those crimes. It will take time. It will take time, as I said.
How long it's going to take this investigation? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It depends how much information they'll be able to get. For us, we are going to go on testimonies to collect much more testimonies of what happened in the next year. Also, I'm just generally, as an observation about international criminal law and how this is going to play, I'm just sharing the personal fear that the international criminal system terrorists do not care about the international criminal system. I'm just thinking about maybe we need to redefine accountability, redefine the ways we are putting those people to trial, or thinking about the ways that can really deter them. So this is the mission
of us, of women, strong women.
Exactly.
And the IWF, I think, is going to be a part of this discourse. We want to initiate this discourse within our colleagues, our members, and I hope they're going to join us to a kind of a discourse which is very important. So I think we're running out of time.
Maybe I'll just say as a final sentence that I feel like we share the same belief that women must be in a leadership position in the next chapter of Israel, in order to see a different future for all of us here. So thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Cochav. It was very interesting. You are my hero. Thank you.